Find out how Iran is likely to react. We're joined by Kaveh Afrasiabi. He's a former advisor to Iran's nuclear negotiation team. He's also written a book called Iran Nuclear Accord and the Remaking of the Middle East. Well, Trump had been hinting at this for some time. It happened today. What was your reaction when you heard of this new U.S. policy?
I was utterly disappointed. I was hoping that he would echo his own Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who just last night met the reporters and told them that the U.S. intends to abide by the nuclear agreement. And we have also heard from the Defense Secretary Mattis that this deal is in the national interest of the United States. For Trump to completely ignore the opinion of these professional high officials of his own cabinet and make these outlandish demonizing statements against Iran and this big stab at the nuclear agreement is really catering to the far-right elements of his base and appeasing, this troubled prime minister in Israel who's looking for scapegoats from his own troubled problems with the Palestinians and Arabs. And this really opens a Pandora's box with a very big cloud of uncertainty over the nuclear agreement that is strongly favored by the rest of the international community, including all the other signatories of the agreement. I have seen the joint statement by the Europeans and China and so forth. So the U.S. is really isolating itself, and it's really very, very unlikely that the U.S. Congress would take any unwise move to unravel this deal. And the most probable outcome from the U.S. Congress, in my opinion, is inaction.
And do you think that's likely?
Which is likely. I don't think that the U.S. Congress would be dumb enough to go and scrap a deal that is in the U.S.'s own national interest. And we have seen the blistering statement by the former negotiator, former Secretary John Kerry, saying that Trump has taken a very dangerous step and has created potentially the Iranian nuclear crisis, an unnecessary international crisis, and this is disservice to U.S. and its own national interest. And President Trump should think twice before taking this further and unraveling this deal altogether.
Well,
I hasten to add that I really don't think that Trump went that far to completely decertify. His refusal to recertify is not, strictly speaking, from a legal standpoint, tantamount to decertification.
Right. That's a really good point. But let's talk a little bit about Iran, because President Rouhani said today that the United States is more isolated than ever. And you mentioned it. I mean, he's got his own advisors who said that they're in compliance. You've got all of these other world leaders who are concerned about this. There were a lot of hardliners in Iran who basically suggested you can't trust the United States, while the moderates were pushing back, saying, let's go for this deal. What happens there now?
Well, unfortunately, this causes a political setback for the moderate President Rouhani and his nuclear team, led by the resourceful Foreign Minister Dr. Zarif. And, the hardliners see a historical deja vu. It reminds them of, right after 9/11, when Iran cooperated with the political changeover in Afghanistan, and George Bush rewarded them with access of evil speech. Now they fully complied with this international agreement. There's not a shred of evidence that Iran is in non-compliance, and the tiny bit of evidence that Trump mentioned in his speech today, they were all corrected, and you have 8 reports by the IAEA confirming that Iran is in full compliance with its obligations under the JCPOA. So Iran is rightfully angry and upset, and they will take proportional response to this. We've heard from President Rouhani that Iran will remain within the terms of the agreement so long as the other parties are in good faith standing with it, and hopefully that will be the case for the foreseeable future.
Well, we'll definitely keep our eye on it, and we want to thank you for joining us from Boston this evening.